Welcome to This Explainer. Imagine for a second we're standing right out in your yard together, and I'm holding a razor-sharp professional silky saw. Well, the very first thing I'd ask you is this. Are you about to properly prune that tree, or are you just going to hack away at it? Because there is a massive difference between the two. Proper pruning improves a tree's structure, it enhances its long-term health, and honestly, it just makes your landscape look incredible. Hacking, on the other hand, that can cause irreversible damage. So today, we're going to break down the exact science and technique of tree pruning so you can treat your yard like a true arborist. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with safety first to avoid hazards, then move right into improving structure and health, compare heading versus collar cuts, and finally, we'll wrap up with the three-point cut technique. All right, let's dive right into section 1, safety first and avoiding hazards. Look, these aren't just polite suggestions, guys. This is your mandatory safety protocol. Whether you're using a simple handsaw, pass-through pruners, or even a chainsaw, you absolutely need a hard hat if you are working anywhere under large limbs. Safety glasses and cut-resistant gloves are absolute musts too, just to protect yourself from rogue branches and sharp blades. And if you're using a ladder, never, ever stand on the top rung, or honestly anything above the rung noted on the safety label. Plus, if you are doing something a bit more advanced, like felling a small tree, always plan a clear escape path that is opposite the direction of the fall at a 45-degree angle. And here is an absolute deal breaker you need to remember. If your tree is anywhere in your power lines, stop right now. Seriously, call a professional. Do not try to tackle it yourself. There's just no way that's worth the risk. The exact same goes for massive trees, trees hovering right over your house, or any tree where you see signs of major decay or hollowed-out wood. Overhead hazards are incredibly deadly, and a DIY yard project is never ever worth risking your life. Okay, so assuming you're geared up and the area is totally safe, let's ask a fascinating question to get us thinking a bit more like a tree. Why do trees self-prune? Have you ever noticed a bunch of little dead branches just hanging out on the inside of a tree's canopy? Which brings us perfectly into section 2, improving structure and health. You see, it all comes down to energy. Trees will naturally kill off their own interior branches when those branches just aren't getting enough sun exposure. The leaves on those inner branches end up using way more energy than they actually produce, so the tree just cuts off the supply. It's pretty smart. Our goal with pruning is to help the tree efficiently allocate its energy by doing a smart interior cleanout. But before we start chopping away, we have to respect the golden rule of pruning: volume. You should never remove more than 25% of the canopy of a small, young tree. And for a large, older tree, you need to cap that at just 10%. Removing too much of that leaf surface at once massively reduces the tree's ability to produce food, which can severely shock it or literally kill it. Remember, we want to guide the tree, not starve it. So, what exactly makes the hit list within that 10 to 25% limit? Well, you've got some prime targets. First up, obvious dead or dying limbs. Second, branches that are crossing and rubbing together. Over time, that rubbing wears away the bark and creates a super weak spot where the branch is probably going to break anyway. Third, downward pointing branches. I mean, they rarely see sunlight anyway, right? Fourth, competing V crotches. If two main branches form a really tight V, they're basically competing and weakening the whole tree. You usually want to take one out to establish a strong central leader. And finally, go ahead and snip off water sprouts. Those are those little vertical limbs growing straight up from the branches, and suckers, which sprout from the base of the trunk and just steal nutrients. Cleaning all of these out improves airflow, which actually helps prevent moisture-caused funguses or molds. Moving right along to section 3, heading versus collar cuts. Now, to cut like a pro, you first have to identify the branch collar. It's absolutely crucial. The branch collar is that flared, slightly swollen base of the branch right where it physically connects to the main trunk or a larger limb. This specific, bumpy area contains specialized cells that actually help the tree heal itself after a cut. This right here is what separates the amateurs from the pros. A heading cut is when you just slice randomly across the middle of a branch just because it's easy. Do not do this. A heading cut will either promote a bunch of ugly, weak responsive growth right at the cut, or it'll just leave a dead, rotting little stick hanging off your tree. A branch collar cut, however, is made just outside that flared base we just talked about. Making the cut right there stimulates growth in the proper direction and allows the tree to naturally close over and heal the wound. Oh, actually, a quick pro tip before we tackle the bigger branches: you've got to sanitize your tools. Just like us, trees can catch a cold. If you prune a diseased tree and then take your pass-through pruners or your silky saw right over to a perfectly healthy tree, you are actively transmitting bacterial vectors. Just wipe your blades down with a little bleach between trees to maintain good landscape hygiene. All right, final piece of the puzzle. Section 4, the three-point cut technique. So if you're dealing with a branch thicker than an inch in diameter, sawing straight down from the top is a recipe for disaster. The heavy branch will snap mid-cut and peel a massive, damaging strip of bark right down the trunk. To prevent that awful bark tear out, you use the three-point cut. It's super simple. Step 1. Start a few inches away from the trunk and cut about a quarter of the way through the underside of the limb. Step 2. Move about an inch further out past that first cut and now saw down from the top side. As you cut, the limb's own heavy weight will cause it to snap cleanly right between those two cuts, safely dropping the bulk of the branch to the ground. Step 3. Now you're left with this short, lightweight stub. You can safely make your final clean cut just outside the branch collar and branch bark ridge, cutting downward and outward. It is literally a foolproof method to protect your tree from permanent scarring. Now, while you're getting in there and clearing out the center of the tree for airflow, I have to give you one massive warning. Avoid what's known as lion's tailing. This is a super common mistake where an overenthusiastic DIYer strips away every single piece of interior foliage, leaving only these little tufts of leaves at the very ends of the branches, looking exactly like the tail of a lion. Not only does this look completely ridiculous, but it totally throws off the structural balance of the tree, making the branches way too heavy at the tips and incredibly prone to snapping the second a windstorm rolls through. So this all brings us to one final, really vital question you need to ask yourself the next time you pick up those shears. Are you cutting to help the tree thrive, or are you just forcing a shape upon it? When we prune with a health-first mindset, respecting that branch collar, sanitizing our tools, focusing on sunlight and airflow, and never taking more than the tree can naturally handle, we aren't just doing yard work. We're actively partnering with nature to build a stronger, more beautiful landscape that's going to thrive for generations. So take a look out your window right now. What is your tree trying to tell you it actually needs?